There is a crazy theory about lobsters. In the 17th and 18th centuries, they were actually considered a low-status food for the poorer people. Isn't that crazy? I mean, you walk into a high-end restaurant nowadays, and you get served a full lobster. Today, they are literally considered a delicacy and a status symbol. Back in the day, they were often labeled as the poor man's chicken. There's a story behind this, though. So, originally they were routinely served as food for prisoners and slaves, both of whom often refused to eat them. One of the simple reasons they were fed to children and prisoners during the colonial era is because they were so copious. They even used them as fertilizers. But this doesn't add up, right? Because even if you grant that lobster used to be more abundant and less expensive, it's still complicated and labor-intensive to prepare. If you've prepared a lobster before, you know it takes long to get the meat off to produce a sufficient amount. And that's what historians questioned. These reasons link with one another, so to understand, you have to hear both. The first reason is because during the Civil War, canning food became a viable way to distribute rations. It was in high demand because it was cheap and high in protein, often labeled chewable fuel. Then reason number two, there was a rise in the use of railroads and consequently tourism. People who had long eaten canned lobster were unaware of the food's low-class status in its place of origin, would take a trip to New England, try fresh lobster for the first time, and lose their minds over how delicious it was. As a result, demand for fresh lobster in other cities around the country rose, and because lobster must be shipped live, it ended up costing more to serve it. Thanks to people like millionaire Diamond Jim Brady, who would reportedly eat 6 or 7 lobsters at a sitting. Thus, in a span of maybe 50 years, a trash food became a delicacy. In contrast, recent decades have spouted signs that the fate of the lobster may be moving back in the other direction thanks to a newer consideration, animal rights. There's an essay asking, is it all right to boil a sentient creature alive just for our gustatory pleasure? Many animal rights activists have decided that the answer is no, and have made moves to classify the live boiling of lobsters as inhumane. Some places have already outlawed the practice.